Yesterday afternoon, I looked across the street and saw my neighbor doing something that made absolutely no sense. It was brutally hot. His house was sitting in the same sun as mine, but instead of turning the air conditioner up, he was outside, cooling his house with water. And when I asked him why, he said something that stuck with me. You don't have to fight the heat, you have to stop it from getting inside. And that is exactly what the Japanese have been doing for centuries. While I was still sweating like a hog, he had cooled his house down to a comfortable temperature. And he did it completely without AC. Here's the interesting part. You don't need to rebuild your house. You don't need an expensive cooling system. And you don't even need electricity for most of these methods. The Japanese developed a whole collection of simple techniques based on this idea. Block the heat, move the air, cool the surfaces, then trap the coolness inside. Stay tuned, because today I'm going to show you 7 parts of this Japanese method, and more importantly, exactly how you can use them in your own home. The first method is almost too simple. Shade the outside of your windows. Traditional Japanese homes used woven bamboo or reed screens called sudare. Here's why they work. When sunlight passes through your window, the glass doesn't simply let light into the room. That sunlight hits your floor, your furniture, your walls, and becomes heat. So an interior blind is already too late. The smarter approach is to stop the sunlight before it reaches the glass. And you can do this yourself. Buy an exterior bamboo or reed shade. Mount it above the window with simple brackets or hooks, and lower it during the hours when that window receives direct sunlight. Start with your worst windows, especially those facing west, because they receive the brutal afternoon sun. You don't need to shade every window. Shade the windows that are actually heating your house. So here's what I learned from this. A simple shade outside can make a bigger difference than an expensive blind inside. Now we're back to what my neighbor was doing. Have you ever walked across pavement after a summer rainstorm? You can actually feel the difference. That's evaporation. The rain falls on your hot patio and evaporates immediately. When water changes from liquid to vapor, it takes heat energy with it. The heat rises and disappears to a place where it no longer bothers us. The Japanese have traditionally used this principle in a practice called uchimizu, sprinkling water over outdoor surfaces. And you can try it tonight. Take a hose, watering can, or bucket. When the sun is getting low, lightly wet your driveway, patio, walkway, or other hot surfaces around the house. Don't flood them. You're trying to create evaporation, not a swimming pool. And timing matters. Do it in the late afternoon or evening, preferably when the surface is shaded. If you pour water onto scorching pavement at noon, the sun can evaporate it almost immediately. But in the evening, the cooling effect lasts longer. Now let's get to another part of the Japanese cooling method. Here's something almost everyone gets wrong. They open one window and wait for the room to cool, but air needs somewhere to go. Open 2 openings on opposite sides of the house. For example, open a bedroom window, then open a window or door on the other side of the house. Now air has a path. If the room only has windows on one wall, leave the bedroom door open and create an opening farther down the hallway. Suddenly, the house isn't just receiving air, it's moving air through itself. And you don't need a fan. That's cross-ventilation. The Japanese understood that a house should breathe from one opening to another, not simply have one window cracked open. But what happens on a completely still evening? No wind, no breeze, nothing moving. There's another trick. Warm air rises. So create a low opening where cooler air can enter and a high opening where warm air can escape. Open a lower floor window on the shaded side of your house. Then open an upstairs window, attic window, or high vent on the warmer side. As warm air rises and escapes, it can pull cooler air into the lower part of the house. This is called the stack effect. Think of your house like a chimney. You don't need a motor, you need a temperature difference. And if you have a staircase or attic, you may already have everything you need. Now here's something completely different. Sometimes the room isn't the only problem. Your bedding is. Imagine lying in bed on a hot night wearing polyester pajamas underneath polyester sheets. Your body produces moisture, but synthetic fabric doesn't handle that moisture particularly well. Now replace those sheets with cotton or, even better, linen. Suddenly, the same room can feel completely different. Natural fibers can absorb and release moisture, helping manage the little humid layer of air directly against your skin. You don't need to renovate anything. Go to the laundry aisle. Replace your hottest feeling synthetic sheets with cotton or linen. It's one of the simplest changes on this entire list. Now, zoom out. Why shade only the window? Traditional Japanese houses often use deep roof eaves, called noki, to keep direct summer sunlight off the walls and windows. Walk outside on a hot afternoon and look at a wall underneath a deep overhang. Part of that wall can be blazing hot. The part in the shadow can be surprisingly comfortable. That's because the heat was blocked before the wall had a chance to absorb it. You don't have to rebuild your roof. For a retrofit, install a retractable awning or a simple exterior shade over the windows, receiving the strongest sunlight. Again, focus on the worst offenders, especially south and west-facing windows. And this may be the most important one. Timing. During the day, your house absorbs heat. The walls, the floors, the furniture, everything slowly stores energy. But after sunset, the outside temperature eventually drops below the temperature inside. That's your opportunity. Open the windows, open doors where appropriate, create cross ventilation, let the cool night air flush the accumulated heat out of the building. Then, before the outside temperature rises again in the morning, close everything. Windows, doors, curtains. You're essentially turning the house into a thermos. The Japanese practice of enjoying the cool evening connects closely to what building scientists now call night flushing or night purge ventilation. The trick is simple. Open when outside becomes cooler than inside. Close before outside becomes hotter again. A cheap indoor/outdoor thermometer can tell you exactly when that happens. Now, let's be honest. None of these methods magically replaces air conditioning in every climate. Night flushing works particularly well where nights become significantly cooler than the daytime. In hot, humid climates where the temperature barely drops overnight, its effect can be much smaller. And exterior shading won't cool a room if the problem is already coming from somewhere else. That's why you shouldn't try all 7 methods at once. Find your biggest source of heat, then attack that first. Look at what these methods have in common. No complicated machine, no subscription, no sophisticated technology, just shade, water, airflow, natural materials, and timing. The Japanese don't eliminate summer. They learned how to work with the physics of summer. And the physics doesn't care whether your house is in Tokyo, Ohio, Texas, or California. Heat still moves the same way. So tonight, try one thing. Shade your hottest window. Wet the pavement after sunset. Open 2 windows instead of 1. Change your sheets. Or simply wait until the outside air becomes cooler and then let your house breathe. Because sometimes the smartest way to cool a house isn't to build a bigger machine. It's to stop making the machine do all the work. And once you understand that, summer starts to feel a little less like something you have to fight.